Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and how's your spending plan in the spendiest month of the year? Today, we welcome a mentor who's going to teach you the art of spending money, Morgan Housel. In our headline segment, Warren Buffett said, "Peace out, homies," as he cleaned out his leftovers from the break room fridge at Berkshire Hathaway. That's right, it's Warren's last month at the helm. What lessons can we glean from this historic transfer away from the world's greatest investor? We'll share. And of course, I think this is a great time to reminisce about someone Santa thinks is naughty, having a birthday. And now, two guys who are hanging the investment stockings with care. It's Joe and G.
Hey, Stackers, happy Wednesday. And yeah, I can't believe it, OG. We've never had Morgan Housel on the show until today.
Like Christmas in December.
It is crazy. It's amazing. If you're not familiar with Morgan Housel's work, buckle up, Buttercup, because Morgan always has phenomenal stuff to say that cuts
Hot
right
takes.
to the chase. He does.
You gotta use the lingo.
Yes, all the kids are using it. Speaking of that voice, and I just said, hey, OG, people might not know who he is. If you're new to the show, my partner in crime on this podcast, the one, the only, the OG. How are you this fine Wednesday, my friend?
Living the dream, man. Dancing in my office.
Of course.
Living the dream. Feeling the flow.
I can't believe how warm it is this late in the year down here in Texarkana.
It's great. Perfect golf weather.
I know, wearing shorts at this time of year, just so strange.
That's why I moved here.
It is so wild.
Meanwhile, I got the space heater on my side of the card table, just blasting heat up from underneath the desk right into my face. So it's weird how different the weather patterns are in the basement.
The old man wants his Afghan and his house shoes.
That's right. It's only 87 degrees in
I'm
here.
absolutely wearing house shoes right now.
Morgan Housel coming up next. He is going to help you practice the art of thinking about how you spend your money. Morgan, of course, is not only a best-selling author, he's a guy who has been, the last several years, one of the prime voices in the personal finance community. You're going to hear Morgan today. Before we say hello to Morgan for the first time on Stacking Benjamins, we also have a few sponsors who make sure that we can keep on keeping on and all the Morgan Housel goodness. You don't have to pay for any of that. So we're going to hear from them. And then the Morgan Housel coming down to talk about the art of spending. You may not know that when we started Stacking Benjamins, it was a blog. And even then, just the startup cost, I remember thinking, is this the right thing? And what if I write things and nobody comes, right? Well, luckily, that didn't end up happening. But starting something new isn't just hard. It's terrifying. There's so much work. You're not sure whether it's going to work out. You're not sure if anybody's going to read it. And then we change it to a podcast. Is anybody actually going to listen, right? What if nobody wants all the stuff that we have? Well, had I used Shopify, it would have been even easier because with their expertise, their helpful tools, and their easy-to-use platform, that's something that would have made Stacking Benjamins more effective much, much more quickly. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Names you've heard of like Heinz and Mattel, Shopify, Gymshark, Aviator Nation, Allbirds, also all Shopify. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button It's used by millions of businesses around the world. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. It also helps boost conversions, meaning less carts going abandoned and more sales for you. So you're stacking Benjamins much more quickly. Time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/SB. Go to shopify.com/SB. That's shopify.com/SB. Spring cleaning's made its way to my closet. This time of year always makes me rethink exactly what's in my closet. Really want to keep fewer things, but I also want to keep better ones. I want to feel confident, and to feel confident, looking the part's a big piece of that. So I want pieces that are well made and that are easy to wear all the time. And that's why I keep coming back to Quince. The fabrics feel elevated. The fits are thoughtful. Pricing actually makes sense. As I'm swapping out and I'm cutting, the few additions I'm making all come from Quince. Quince makes high-quality, everyday essentials using premium materials like 100% European linen. They're insanely soft, flow-knit activewear fabric. Their men's linen pants and shirts are lightweight, they're breathable, they're comfortable. Basically, the perfect layer for spring. The pants strike the right balance between laid back and refined. If you saw the video of me on stage at Retire Meet, those pants are from Quince. It was really cool. I came off stage and Christine Benz from Morningstar getting ready to go on behind me and said, "Love your pants." Not generally. I absolutely love them. I think they make me look put together without trying too hard. And they're flow-knit activewear, moisture wicking, anti-odor, soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it all day. The best part is their prices. This is important, stackers. They are 50 to 60% less than similar brands. How? Quince works directly with ethical factories, cuts out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality, not brand markup. Everything's designed to last and make getting dressed easy, which is another thing I think we all want. I love those pants that I wore on stage. It's the cashmere sweater that every time I wear it, Cheryl goes, "That is my favorite sweater on you." It looks great, feels great, and I don't have to have 50 things in my closet. So, like I am, refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. Go to QUINCE.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/SB. I'm super happy this gentleman is coming down the stairs to Mom's basement. It's Morgan Housel. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Well, good to see you. And you're a guy who I've read and seen so much. I feel like I know you. It's one of these parasocial relationships, Morgan, that we often have with our stackers. But I know enough about you and your work that you choose words very carefully. And you called the book, your new project, The Art of Spending Money. It's not the science of spending money. It's not the strategy, but the art. Why that word? Why is that word so important?
Well, I think there's two ways to think about this. One is I easily could have called it the psychology of spending money. It's not the strategy of spending money. It's not a lecture on how to spend money. It's what is going through your head when you are thinking about these topics. The psychology of envy, the psychology of greed, the psychology of contentment and happiness is really what this book is about. I don't think there is a science of spending money, because in a science, there really has to be kind of a formula that works for me and you at the same time. And the truth is, we are different people, and everyone is different from one another. Different generations, different cultures, different risk tolerances, different family situations, different emotional scars that we all bring with us from the past that shape our current desires and our current goals and whatnot. And so the idea that it is an art and not a science, I think this is a very imperfect analogy, but the best analogy that I can think of what it is like is your taste in food. There is no science of the taste in food. You might like Mexican food, and I might say, no, Italian is much better. I absolutely despise seafood. Anything that's been submerged in water will not go down my throat. And I wouldn't be surprised if you and most people listening to this think that's crazy. But the truth is, like, we're all different. We're all very different. There's no science to this. Whatever works for you is what's going to work for you. And I think the idea of not just how we spend, but actually how we earn and save and invest our money fall into that category as well. It's not a science, it's an art.
Which means it makes it hard to create a set of rules. I mean, they're truly then By definition, then, Morgan, I think there'd be no rules to follow as much as there's kind of guidelines and markers and maybe a rainbow at the end of the horizon we're looking at.
Yeah, I think that tends to be true. And now look, there are some rules of being reasonable within it. If you are investing, you need to understand the math behind compounding. You need to understand the risk of debt and liquidation.
Sure.
Those are universal between you and I. But the idea of the psychology of your risk tolerance, that's going to be different from person to person. And so there are these guideposts that are universal that you need to understand. And that's where financial education really comes into play and that kind of thing. But the idea that we are all different creatures within those guidelines is one of the most overlooked parts of finance, I think.
I'm so glad you're here in December, maybe the spendiest month of the year, right? So it's a good time to get a little philosophical about this. You write that you worked as a valet at a high-end hotel. I'm very curious about that. Was that a good time? Did you like your time as a valet?
Oh my gosh, I cannot exaggerate the extent to which that was the coolest job a 19-year-old could have. I was a valet for all 4 years during college at a 5-star hotel in Los Angeles. And this was kind of just before the housing bubble burst in 2007, 2008. And so there was so much fake money flowing around Los Angeles, which is already a fake city to begin with in terms of its material aspirations and showing off whatnot. And so you take the fake performative culture of Los Angeles, and then you dump $1 trillion of subprime money onto this. It was a crazy time. So as a 19-year-old, I was driving all these Ferraris and Bentleys and Rolls Royces.
That sounds
90%
tough.
of which I'm sure were just leased. And we're doing it in 80 degrees sunny weather. It was the coolest job ever. And this is where I truly learned about so much of this stuff. I got to observe in a very fine magnifying glass the psychology of rich people. And not just rich people, but like performative rich people who were taking their dates out to dinner at this hotel and, trying to show off their car in the front of the area. And so I feel like I learned so much about it back then because in my little 19-year-old pea brain, I had these aspirations to be a rich person one day too. And in my naive thinking, I just kind of thought like, oh, one day I'll have a Ferrari and therefore I'll be happy. All my problems will go away. Everything will be great. Everybody will love me. That was the very naive leap that I took. And looking at so many of these people, not just some, but I would venture to say most, if not nearly all, they were not as happy or as successful as I thought they would be. Some of them would come in a $300,000 Lamborghini, and you get to know these people, and you're like, he's actually not that successful. He just spends half of his income on a Lamborghini lease payment. There were so many of those elements that I got to see during those years that I learned a lot from.
It's interesting. I'm wondering, was there a correlation? Like the more performative the car was, the more, if it's the bright red, shiny Ferrari and the guy is immaculately dressed, he seemed to be less happy and less successful than the person that shows up in maybe a nice Buick? Or was there just no correlation at all? Like the Ferrari did not say anything to you about the person's general level of happiness in your short interaction with them?
I think people in flashy cars tend to separate into two groups. One is the car driver who wants to be seen. And the reason they own the Ferrari is because they want to turn heads and they want to show off in front of strangers. That's one group. The second group is the one who truly loves the craft and the engineering of this beautiful machine. And they own it for the art. I think the litmus test is saying, if you lived on a deserted island and nobody could see you, nobody could see your cars, your house, your clothes, how would you choose to live? If nobody could see your cars that you were driving, the people who own the cars for the craft and the engineering and the beauty of it would still drive it and still love it. And they just loved like polishing them in their garage every Sunday morning, that kind of thing. And then so I am not anti-spending in the slightest. And I love nice stuff. I love nice homes. I love nice cars. I love all of it. I like spending money on nice things, full stop. But you need to make sure you're owning it for the right reason. And it tends to be one of those two groups. Are you doing it because you truly love and enjoy this thing, whatever it might be, or because you think, usually in a fooling yourself way, that you are fostering and instilling some kind of admiration from strangers?
It's funny, though, how addictive that admiration from strangers at first, maybe not addictive, but seductive it can be. I grew up in an auto family, but I've never been a car person, Morgan. But my roommate in college was really into Corvettes. And I was like, what a waste of time and what a waste of money. And then I rode in his Corvette. And then everybody was looking at me all the time. Yeah. Well, like even people that didn't care like me would glance at the person driving by because it was a cool car. It's very, very seductive.
But I would challenge you, though, that they were not actually looking at you. They were looking at the car and imagining themselves being in your position.
Good point.
Now, that's a very different thing. They weren't saying, wow, look at Joe. Joe's so amazing. He's so great. What they did is they said, if I was sitting in Joe's seat, people would be looking at me. Even when people are paying attention to your car, your clothes, your house, 90% of the time, they're not actually paying attention to you. They are imagining themselves having that thing and dreaming about the attention that others would therefore give to them.
You write that in this project about Ben Franklin saying something to that extent, that people are envious of you. And if you can be I'm not going to get the words right because I don't have it right in front of me, but if you can be, I don't know what the phrase is, liked by people or honored by people without them feeling envious, that is truly a great place to be. Yeah,
it's very easy to mistake envy for admiration. Let's say you are in a position where people are like, wow, look at that house. Look at those clothes. Like, you're doing well for yourself. It's easy to think they admire you for it, but very often what they do is they envy you for it. And envy is not something you want to go through life minimizing the amount of people who are envious of you. I'll give you one other valet story from the period of time. One of the actually richest people that came into the hotel all the time, he was a regular there, was a very successful clothing entrepreneur. I know because it was a public company that he was worth hundreds of millions of dollars at the time. And he drove a modest Toyota pickup truck at the time. I loved that this was actually one of the most successful people. He was not one of the people faking it with the lease payment. This guy was actually filthy rich. But I think he was so confident in himself and so confident in who he was and gained his admiration from his entrepreneurial abilities, from his kindness. He was the nicest, friendliest guy you could ever possibly meet. And that's what I admired him for. I think my initial knee-jerk reaction at the time was, dude, you have so much money. What are you driving this old pickup truck for? What is going on here? And as I gained a little bit more maturity, now I'm like 21 at this point, let's say, I kind of realized like, I actually like you the best. I actually like you more than any of these people because I think part of the reason was the people in the Rolls Royces and the Bentley, I probably did envy them. Now, that's not a brag. That's a character flaw of mine. But I think I did envy them. I think it was, oh, you think you're better than me? Like, I don't think you're better than me. You think you're better than my dad? I don't think you're better than my dad. And it was a sense of envy. But this other entrepreneur who drove the pickup, who was actually so successful, I was like, it's the opposite of envy. I'm like, I love this guy. He is so great. I have so much genuine admiration for him. I think usually envy happens not when somebody has nicer things than you or more money than you. It's when they have nicer things or more money, and rightly or wrongly, you tell yourself they didn't deserve it. You think you're working harder than me? I'm working hard too, but I can't afford that. That's where envy comes from. It's this feeling of unearned inferiority that you have towards others.
You wrote something else that really hit me, which was never make fun of how someone mispronounces a word because they learned it from reading. Yeah. You had read that somewhere, but the corollary that you bring up then is never make fun of how someone spends money because they learned it from living. Can you unpack that? Because I think a lot of our stackers, we all judge ourselves kind of harshly sometimes around the way we spend money.
Yeah, I think it's true that the way that you spend your money and save your money and invest your money tends to be a reflection of some deeply rooted personality characteristics that you have. Maybe there are scars from earlier in your life, scars where you're trying to make up for, scars that gave you a very high or very low risk tolerance, whatever it might be. You learned it from living. I think that tends to be the case. Now, that's not to say that people can't make terrible decisions. It's not to say that people should not be told they're making terrible decisions that they're going to regret. But when they are making those decisions of here's how much money I'm going to spend, here's how much money I'm going to save, or the lack thereof, it makes sense to them in that moment. It's checking the boxes that they need in that moment. I think that tends to be the case, that it's very common to look at somebody who is spending money differently than you are, or saving or investing differently than you are. They're either spending and saving way more or way less than you, and look at that and say, you're doing it wrong. I'm doing it right. You're doing it wrong. You're not spending enough. You're too frugal. You're not saving enough, whatever it might be. And I think a lot of where those feelings come from is that when you see people doing it differently than you can interpret that as a threat to your own decision making. Because if you're saving half your income and you see someone living paycheck to paycheck, when you look at them and say you're doing it wrong, I think it's not uncommon that actually what you're feeling is like, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe they're living a great life that I'm missing out on. And you can respond to that with a lot of criticism and cynicism. And so, look, I know a lot of people make very bad financial decisions that they will end up regretting. And I think I have a pretty good radar at spotting those, but I still have to remind myself that that person is not me. And maybe in their mind at that moment, it's the right thing for them to do, even if it would be the wrong thing for myself to do. I'll tell you a very quick little story here. It was actually before I was a valet. My very first job, I think I was 17. I was working at a ski resort in Lake Tahoe. And I had a coworker. He was probably 25, maybe 28, something like that. And he had $25,000 of credit card debt that he had racked up from going on these ski trips around the world. He had skied in France and Italy and Antarctica, and he had been everywhere on these like exotic ski trips, $25,000 in credit card debt. And I gave him so much grief for how stupid, how much of an imbecile he was for having all of this debt. And on a daily basis, I would criticize him and ridicule him. The tragic punchline here is about a decade later, so let's say he's maybe mid-30s, he died in a ski accident. I remember how quickly my feelings what shifted towards, I'm so glad he took those ski trips while he could. I'm so glad he got to live this amazing life, did it. And now the takeaway is not that you and I should have a YOLO mentality and live like we're going to die tomorrow, because hopefully we're not going to. But I think it's never as simple as live for today or save for tomorrow. The only thing you should think about is, what are you going to regret at some point in the future? And trying to minimize the number of regrets that you have. I think about that a lot because I've been a big saver since I earned my first dollar when I was 17 at that ski resort. I've been a huge saver ever since. And I think a lot about the balance between, I hope I live for another 50 years, and B, I might not. You might not. Nobody knows what this can. So how do you balance regrets in a morbid kind of idea of, if you were on your deathbed tomorrow, looking back at your life, what would you regret? And a good philosophy foundation for life is trying to minimize those numbers of regrets. To bring that back to the point that you started with.
Yeah.
When you see somebody spending more or less money than you, it actually might be wrong for you, but make perfect sense in their head at that moment.
It strikes me as you're telling that story, there's a lot of consternation in 2025 around the Bill Bengen new book and the idea that the 4% rule, it doesn't roll off the tongue anymore, Morgan, like it used to, the 5.25% rule, or whatever it's going to be. As I'm looking through your book and I'm reading your book and I'm contemplating your words, this idea of even starting with the 4% rule or the 5% rule might be a mistake. That if we begin with happiness and then see if that lodges inside a 4% or 5% of whatever we've done, might be a better way to even attack how we think about spending money during our retirement or our fire years.
Yeah, I do think there's something to be said that a lot of people will view those rules as guardrails around their happiness, that I want to spend as much money as I possibly can out of these assets. So it'd be great if it's 4%, but if you tell me it's 5%, that's going to be so much better because I'm going to be able to live a much better life.
Yeah, right.
I think to some extent that can be true. Everybody can spend more money in a way that's going to give them a better life. I think that tends to be universal. And if you can't, that's a personal flaw. You just haven't figured out how to do it yet.
Right. I do
think there's, but yeah, exactly. But I do think there is something to be said that if you view your entire happiness as being constrained by how much money you're spending, that's a flaw as well. My late grandmother-in-law, for 30 years, she lived off of nothing but $1,800 a month in Social Security. Nothing else. She had no assets, no pension, just $1,800 a month, nothing else. Happiest woman you will ever meet. Totally content, totally happy, playing in her garden and going for walks and like bird watching. She always had a smile on her face. She's always laughing. She's always telling jokes. The takeaway there is not like, oh, you should do that too. But to me, the takeaway was it's absolutely possible to live an amazing life on very little money. It is within your control. And the idea that wealth is what you have minus what you want. It's what you have minus what you want. And she had nothing and she wanted nothing else. And so that equation penciled out perfectly. There are also so many people that make $10 million a year, but they want 11. And those people are deficit in what they have. They wake up every morning feeling inadequate. And so I think there's no level to that. Everybody can spend more money in a way that's going to give them a better life. But if you start out with, I can only have a good life if I can spend more money, that my happiness is constrained by how much money that I can spend, that's a problem as well.
Did you look into the research that a lot of people say is outdated, that, there's a certain amount of money that you can spend up to that makes you happy, and then there's no happiness after that number? I know that's outdated. Have you seen any newer research on that?
Yeah, there's a study that I think kind of solves a lot of this problem of the decades-long debate of does money bring happiness? Some studies would show yes, some studies would show no. I think some of the nuance behind it that's very important are the studies that say and show that if you are already a depressed, miserable, despondent, anxious person, earning more money is not going to do very much for you. Even earning lots of more money is not going to do much for you. But if you are already a happy, joyful, funny, content person, then earning more money will give you a much better life. It's like earning more or less money is just leverage in either direction for who you already were. And so a lot of that is it's too easy for us to assume that the solution for our anxiety and worry and self-doubt is more money. It's too easy that if you wake up every morning feeling like there's a little bit of a hole in your life, it's too easy to tell yourself, if only I had more money, then my problems would go away. That's what a lot of the research on that area would show, is that, yes, there are studies that show people who earn more money are happier, but that's not necessarily causation. There's a correlation there for people who are already pretty content and happy with their life. My late grandmother-in-law on $1,800 a month, if she won the lottery, I think she would have been the happiest person to ever exist, the happiest person who had ever lived. But without naming names, we know some world famous billionaires who, if you dig into their life, are not happy people. Elon Musk talked about this in an interview a couple of years ago. He said, you might think you want to be me, as in the richest man in the world, but he pointed to his temple and he said, it's a storm up here. It's a mess up here. Like, you do not want to be inside this head. And so I think it's too easy for us to assume that there is such a strong correlation between net worth and happiness, even if at the actual level, like, it's much more uncertain than that.
It's funny taking Elon Musk or even the people whose cars would show up when you were a valet, Morgan, and countering that to your grandmother. It makes me think of another great line that you found from somebody that's in your book, which was about, when you're showing off your house to somebody, show them the inside versus showing them the outside. The inside of your house being who you are. So if you start with being trying to be a happier person versus more money, this is much more of a great place to start, I think, than starting with me trying to impress you.
And the inside of your house is showing off for the people that you let into your house, which is going to be your friends, your family, the people who you actually, the outside of your house. And we're just using this as a broad idea. The outside of your house is showing off to strangers who are going to drive past it and say, wow, I wonder who lives there. And so I think that's a pretty powerful idea. I desperately want and need the love and attention and admiration from about 6 people. My wife, my kids, my parents, 1 or 2 of my friends. And that's pretty much it. The people who come into my house, I want them to be proud of me. And I want to use my money to spend quality time with them. Absolutely. Like almost in a desperate way. But outside of those 6 people, it drops off very dramatically. And the vast majority of people who are strangers, I couldn't care less. And the reason I couldn't care less is because they're not paying any attention to me to begin with.
Yeah.
There's a great phrase from the comic Jimmy Carr where he says, in your 20s, people worry about what other people think of you. In your 30s, you say, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. And in your 40s, you finally realize the truth, which is that nobody was thinking about you to begin with. There's a lot of truth to that the vast majority of people are just not paying any attention to you whatsoever. So make sure that if you are trying to use money to impress people, you're doing it for the very small number of people in your life whose love and attention and admiration you actually desire.
I love Jimmy Carr, and it just,
he's so good.
I was talking to a friend of mine about this earlier this week. So it's funny you bring him up. When did this dude become such a philosopher? Because I feel like in the last couple of years, he went from just being a comedian to a guy who's just his life philosophy speaks so much to me.
Well, I think that's true for the vast majority of comedians. There's a really good podcast called Blocks with Neil Brennan. He's also a famous comedian.
Yeah.
He mostly has other comedians on. And what's great about it is it's almost like an unspoken rule that, like, hey, Jimmy Carr or Chris Rock, whoever's on the show, let's not be funny for the next hour. Let's talk philosophically about life. And what you see in there is that the best comedians in the world are absolutely brilliant philosophers. I think there's no exception to that. George Carlin was a brilliant philosopher. Chris Rock is a brilliant philosopher. Jerry Seinfeld, they're all brilliant philosophers. They spend their day thinking about life and the quirks of psychology, and then they deliver that in the best, funniest, most entertaining way possible.
I think about George Carlin, going back to something you and I were talking about earlier, and you actually include this in your new book, but it's a line that I've loved for a long time, which is anybody driving faster than you is a maniac, anybody driving slower. And we're always comparing ourselves to what other people are doing. I want to make sure we cover this before we say goodbye. You outline these 6 principles very early. I think maybe even in the introduction to this project, but let me focus on a few that really resonate. You say there's two ways to use money. Money's a tool you can use, but if you're not careful, it will use you. Can you unpack that for us? Because I felt like when you wrote that, like a bomb dropped in my lap.
Yeah, I think it's not uncommon. It's actually extremely common that money is not a tool that you are using. It is something that hijacked your personality, and it's controlling your desires. It's controlling your ambitions. It's controlling where you live, how you live, who you socialize with. It's like the puppet master controlling your life. I think that is a very common place to be in. And the people who I think use money the most effectively are ones who reject that. And they're like, I'm just going to be me. I'm who I am, and I'm going to use money as a tool to leverage who I am, but it's never going to define who I am.
And then the second is, of course, we've been talking a lot about this, but you say enduring happiness is found in contentment. So the happiest people with money are those who found a way to stop thinking about it. Your badass grandma, it sounds like, found a way to just stop thinking about money, Morgan.
Yeah, I don't think she thought about it any more than you and I would think about air, if that. Air is the most important thing in the world. You don't think about it ever. And that's actually an interesting analogy because there are so many tech bros these days who want to maximize their breathing. And so they like put tape over their mouth at night and whatnot. And so those people are like, they're so unsatisfied with the air that's coming in and out of their body. They want to maximize it more. What a miserable, miserable way to live. Just be happy. There's plenty of air. You don't need to maximize it. Just shut up and breathe. You can do it. And so I think that exists for money as well. The people who are constantly thinking about it and trying to maximize it are generally not the people who are the most content, the most happy with what they have. It's the people who are just like, oh, there's plenty of it. And when I need it, I use it for the things I love. But other than that, I spend my time thinking about my friends and my family and the sunset and the beautiful plants outside, like the things that actually make you happy. And money is there when you need it, but it's not a constant, ever-present thing.
I take everything that we've talked about in the last 25 minutes. And I also think about just you and I as people, as money geeks, our stackers as money geeks, right? We're people who like to think about money. But it seems to me that based on everything we've talked about then, so I'm like, so where's my win here? If I like talking about money, but it's not chasing money, what am I chasing, Morgan? Am I chasing systems? Maybe I'm trying to set up better systems by listening to Stacky Benjamins or by listening to Morgan Housel so that I can think about it less and just do it more efficiently.
Well, I'll give you two that are important to me. What I want out of money more than anything else is pretty much the only thing I want out of money is independence. I just want to live life on my terms, my way, not under anyone else's system, not chasing anyone else's goals. I want to be independent. That's the first thing. The second thing that I love out of money is I think money and finance and investing is a fascinating window into how people think and how people behave. You can learn so much about psychology and behavior and competition and sociology by studying money across culture, how I spend, how you spend, other people's ambitions and their aspirations. You can learn so much about people by studying money. Yes, you can also learn about people by studying religion and politics and sport, like all these other things. But money is like a shockingly clear window into people's psyches that I think is fascinating.
I do too.
That's my fascination with this topic. I want to be independent, and I'm fascinated with the window in which I can learn about other people and learn about myself while studying this.
Yeah, the whole behavioral aspect of this whole pursuit is unbelievable. I'll never get tired of it. The book is called The Art of Spending Money. It is available everywhere. And just a personal question, this is a psychology of money, Morgan. Which was more fun to write?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think the psychology of money, it was a culmination of, at that point, have been about 15 years of heavy thinking about this topic.
I couldn't tell. So it doesn't read like you'd heavily thought about it at all. But for anybody that doesn't recognize the sarcasm there, that was very sarcastic.
But what's also true is that The Art of Spending Money is a book that I needed for myself. I needed to think about these topics in my own life because I felt like I was deficient in thinking about these. I could talk to you for hours about my investing philosophy. But 5 years ago, if you said, what is your spending philosophy? I would have drawn a blank. And so I needed this book for myself. And so it's meaningful for me for that reason.
Morgan, thank you so much in the spendiest month of the year for helping us get a little more philosophical about money. I appreciate the time so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're looking for the answer and correct spelling. Old MacDonald had a what? Farm. E-I-E-I-O.
Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and plenty of stackers have spent countless Benjamins visiting our national parks. And one national park was created back on today's date in 1978. This park was definitely on Santa's naughty list. Which park, clearly not a good one, am I talking about? I'll be back right after I help edit Joe's mom's Christmas list. Asking for a friend, do you spell bustier with one T or two? It's unclear.
Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. They're for those all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken, the times you're deep in your flow and can't be interrupted by an auto update. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to you. Built with long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for an outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Hey there, I'm Paula Pan. I help people make the smartest money decisions possible.
Do not ever worry about your salary. You need enough to make sure that you aren't in a bad financial position. Once you have that, your salary becomes moot. What matters from that point forward, upside gains. Any type of ownership stake or ownership potential, that's the money.
Remember, you can afford anything, just not everything. Afford anything. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Hey there, stackers. I'm Christmas list editor and guy who's easily grossed out, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Today, a very naughty national park was created back in 1978. This 244,000-acre park on Santa's naughty list is the home of one of the nation's biggest treasure trove of fossils. But what park is it? A park that Santa definitely frowns upon? Of course, if it's on Santa's naughty list, it would have to be none other than the Badlands. Happy birthday, Badlands. And now back to two guys who are fighting for last place on Santa's naughty list, Joe and OG.
This is a fun thing to do at home. Cheryl and I did this for a while. Whenever the word bad comes up, we just replace it with the word naughty, and it just changes everything.
It's a funny word.
That is so naughty.
Yeah.
Just it's the little things in life. See, you don't have to spend money. Thanks to Morgan Housel.
Mm-hmm.
We can just change a couple words and life gets fun here in Mom's Basement. OG, you've got spending down, but Morgan clearly has a different view of the art of spending than you do.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
To each their own.
You've got yours. Let's do a headline.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's Headlines.
You know, everybody's talking about AI, the topic that we were chatting about on Monday. There is something that is happening in the background that probably, OG, if you're thinking about the basics, the fundamentals of money, might be a bigger headline. This comes to us from Investment News. Warren Buffett, quote, going quiet, converts $1.35 billion in Berkshire shares in farewell as CEO. Buffett, the legendary investor and longtime leader of Berkshire Hathaway, has announced he will step down from his role as the company's chief executive at the end of this year, marking the end of an era for one of America's most closely watched conglomerates. Of course, we very sadly said goodbye to Charlie Munger last year, and Warren Buffett is retiring at 95 years old, OG. What a run for the iconic investor.
Like he said, paraphrasing, he couldn't have been born at a better time. It's like literally the perfect time to be born and the perfect country to be born in. So
look at all the people that were born during this time.
Sure. Yeah.
And look at how many people messed up their investments. And Warren did exactly the opposite. And it's
He did
funny.
not mess up. I mean, he messed up, but he won more times than he lost, I think.
What a great inspiration for the fire community. I mean, he's checking out at 95, getting out early.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
just getting that financial independence and checking out and just doing what he
Couldn't
wants
retire
to
at
do
50
early.
with $60 million.
Right. Warren Buffett's stopping at 95 because now he's coast-fi. He figured out that even though he could keep working, he doesn't have to save another dime into his 401k.
Lean fire. Yep.
Got enough to last the last 5 years till age 100.
The plan says he's over.
Can you see his financial planner? Warren, I did a bunch of analysis and it appears
As long as you spend less than $20 billion a month, you should be pretty good.
What are some of your favorite Warren Buffett lessons, OG?
Oh, lessons? I don't know that there's any lessons per se. I thought that he was a great communicator, like in terms of taking complex things and simplifying it, which is what I hope to kind of aspire to do here in my real job. But I was like reading the letters. You can go online, you can get them all. They're all available. And I think it's like kind of cool to pick a year and read what he wrote. And it gives you a little bit of a little glimpse into what was going on in that period of time. I think it's also kind of interesting, especially on the heels of our conversation on Monday about market and bubble and that sort of thing. Like, go back and read some of the annual reports, the Berkshire Hathaway annual reports. They usually come out in February timeframe. Read those in the years following big market declines. You know, if you think he's the best investor of all time or top whatever, see what his commentary was while all that stuff was going on, when the housing market was crashing, when COVID went on, when, 2022 happened, the debt, situation in 2012, and even back further of 1998 and 1991 and 1988 and so on and so forth. So it's, I think it's a good glimpse into how people were thinking. And if you believe, as a lot of people do, that Warren Buffett is a pretty sane investor as time goes on, like, what was he doing during that time? You want the recipe card for success. I don't know that you could have a better cake mix put together for you than this guy's investing career.
While other people were panicking, he was always bullish on the long-term state of the economy. So he stayed calm at the helm, noted for staying super, not just calm at the helm, but sometimes even buying into everybody else selling. And he's going in and buying and snatching up prices, which also, the other thing that I like is his commitment to fundamentals. I feel like, especially when we talk about bubbles, that the average investor gets sucked into technical analysis, even when they don't think that they are. Oh, the market is high, right? That's a technical indicator that only works because it's voodoo. People believe it works. So when you look at these candlestick formations that all the technical traders use, it's all voodoo. It's 100% voodoo because everybody thinks it's going to work. Warren Buffett was much, much more about the fundamental. If a company is a good value, if it's a good buy, if he thinks they have a great product, a good management team, he will go in there and buy that stock. He's not looking at, the market's topped out, or the craziness that we see on a day-to-day basis.
I saw a post the other day from a good friend of mine. Somebody we need to get on the show, as a matter of fact. It was about Bitcoin, and I don't know what it's at today, but the last, 6 weeks has been pretty crazy. And it was like all these charts and lines and arrows and graphs and everything. And it was just like this big spaghetti poster of like a Jackson Pollock painting. And it's like, here's your technical analysis for Bitcoin. What's happening next? It's like, I agree with you. That stuff works because you think it works, because you can find some sort of correlation into, well, when the Saturn's third moon was visible on the horizon, this one thing happened this one time, so therefore it must happen again. I don't know. Saturn have 3 moons? I suppose they do. Seems pretty logical. Big planet.
Saturn, far more than 3 moons. Doug's going to look up exactly how many, but I think it's in the teens, isn't it, Doug?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, Doug's going to go look that up for us.
So at least 3.
While we continue.
That's why I said their third moon.
This discussion.
Like Doug's third nipple.
Of course, there's a third one. Let's transition to Berkshire Hathaway. And now Greg Abel is going to be the new CEO. Do you look at Berkshire Hathaway differently, OG, with Greg at the helm versus having Warren Buffett at the helm?
I have so little interest in anything about any individual company, even a behemoth like Berkshire Hathaway, that I couldn't care less.
I just think that whenever you are investing in an active mutual fund, which I think Berkshire Hathaway would classify
Yeah, sure.
as an active mutual fund, the manager at the helm always matters. If you've got something that is an actively traded position versus a passive position, I think it does always matter. I don't know if it's going to be
in that context. Yeah, it does. But I don't have individual positions and don't advocate for them. So
sure,
his CEO-ship is no different to me than when somebody takes over at Procter & Gamble, or, when what's his name came back to Disney. Like, I recognize the name. Like, oh yeah, I know, I've heard of that guy.
That shows how much, Doug, he truly pays. If somebody else takes over Procter & Gamble, that one guy takes over at that other one company with the
heard of
mouse.
him?
Yeah.
I mean, you recognize the name or something. You just go, oh, okay, I've heard that
Yeah.
Bob Iger. I've heard it before.
But I think it is the same, when somebody comes into your company gets taken over by another company and the new management team comes in. What do they always say? Nothing's going to change. And that's 100% not true. Something change every single time there's a new manager.
Yeah.
Things change. The only constant is change. Doug, how many moons are there for Saturn?
There are 278 moons, 274 confirmed moons, obviously making it the planet with the most moons in our solar system.
The mooniest
That number
planet?
jumped significantly. Just this past March, they discovered another 128 moons in March of 2025, bringing the
Okay.
total to 274. Unconfirmed about the size of the third moon.
I thought that it was in the teens, so I think it's in the teens.
No,
Nope.
you were wrong before March.
How the heck? I mean, we've got satellites, for God's sake. The Hubble telescope just went by there.
How are we discovering them now?
It's like, oh wait, we're off by 100. Come on.
128 new moons.
I don't buy it.
I'll show you a new moon.
NASA people trying to stay relevant again.
Space Force OG.
Back in the news. We need to discover new moons. Don't release the latest 200 all at once. Let's do it one at a time, every other day. We'll link to this.
So finish this up, because I got a completely different thing that I just thought of.
We'll link to this in our show notes, stackybenjamins.com. Things changing at Berkshire Hathaway here in the month. Warren Buffett saying goodbye. Wow. Just wild day.
Speaking of Warren Buffett, I was on YouTube the other day and I was watching this interview with an astrophysicist. He was talking about traveling at the speed of light, or nearly at the speed of light. And there's the thing in Switzerland, that they loop protons around. What's that called?
CERN.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's 27 miles long or something, but because they're traveling at nearly the speed of light, it's like it closes distances. So it's like a 4-meter loop for them. That's kind of the way that they think about it. Anyways, he was talking about if you could build a space shuttle that traveled nearly the speed of light, it would take, 10 minutes to traverse the galaxy, or the Andromeda Galaxy or something, turn around and come back.
He's
but
just
the problem
saying words now.
What's that?
You're just saying words now,
Yeah.
like things you've heard in movies.
But then when you turn back, this is like basically the storyline of Interstellar. But then when you came back to tell everybody on Earth what you saw, it would have been like 4 million years.
Yeah. So what's the point? Like, why even bother?
Yes.
None of the people you graduated high school with are going to be able to hear how cool you are now.
How cool.
Yeah.
My brain has a hard time with that. That's all. That's all I have to say there. Because I was thinking about Saturn and how long it would take to get there. And I was like, oh, if I was in a space shuttle like this guy talked about, it'd be really quick. But then
this is a worthwhile diversion. Let's talk about this.
Well, on that note, I saw the news recently that Voyager 1 is now approaching one light day away from the Earth. And
that's the one that left in 78, right?
Yes, I think so.
And I thought, why the heck did it take it that long to go one Earth day? And then I looked and I saw it is now 25,369,800,000 836,867 miles away.
Right.
Well,
from
not
Earth.
anymore. Now it's further.
Yeah, 25 billion miles away from Earth. It takes light one day.
That's one light day. I just keep when we think about that, like, how did we invent something in 1978 that can still communicate with us from that far away?
Well, didn't they think it was only going to last like a year or something? They're like, yeah, if we can get past Mars, that would be incredible.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
amazing.
sure. Yeah, I don't know if I believe any of it. It's all
Hollywood, man.
That's not
Everything's
real.
a hoax. Earth is flat.
It's not happening.
What else is going on in the back porch, Doug?
Joe, I think it's time, because of the giant stacks and stacks of books behind you, not including the one called Stacked with that nice subtle yellow cover. We gave away books to some of our listeners, our stackers, for trivia not too long ago, but you've got a lot more to give away, right?
I do. Our wonderful intern, Debony, did a great job of creating the master list. There were far more books on the master list than I thought. So we love it when people review the show. If you give us a 5, please don't give us a glowing 5-star review because you want a book. But if you were going to give us a review anyway,
really,
if you were going to give us a review, then send that to me, joe@stackingbenjamins.com, and I will show you the master list of all of these books. Now, the reason I've got so many books to give away is because people send me their book to prep for the interview. And I just can't, over nearly 15 years, I can't keep all of these books. So I have stacks and stacks and stacks of really good books that people have sent that have either been on the show, have wanted to be on the show, that are books. Heck, there's even a few of the fiction books I've read that I'm like, you know what, if somebody prefers just some fiction or some things about house remodeling, which we did recently, books on those topics, it is Joe's giveaway.
Why not just put them on Facebook Marketplace and have all the weirdos come to your house like normal people do?
Oh, that's what I probably should do. I prefer to keep the weirdos, our stacker weirdos.
Okay.
So yes, the cool weirdos, that is people like us. So send me, if you leave us a review, send that to me, joe@stackingbenjamins.com, and I would love to then give you the master list, give me your address, and we will get that out to you. So we're going to start up gifting during the holidays. And imagine you could take one of these gently used books and gift it to a friend. Perfect. Like the perfect holiday gift. You know, it's another gift you can give yourself, Doug. The gift of financial literacy and doing a better job.
Just say the gift of OG.
The gift of OG. All gift wrapped. Imagine under your tree.
What could make somebody want to get that more than him saying, just give the gift of OG? Oh, yay.
Martha, what the hell is this guy doing under our tree?
Merry Christmas.
Oh, I gave you the gift of
Passed
OG.
out again. Bourbon and cigars.
Like Billy Bob Thornton under your tree.
Good. That's a great image for basically my next 4 weeks of life. Bad Santa. I'm on my lunch break.
OG body hugging a half-fifth of Woodford.
Yep.
stackingbenjamins.com/OG, and you can have a better year financially than you had in 2025. I know a lot of people are hoping to do better next year than they did this year. And if that's why you're here and you're looking for good help, well, OG, Anna, and the team are now meeting with potential new clients. So if you want to see how their team will interface with you and your family to do better with your money, stackingbenjamins.com/OG. All right, coming up on Friday, fantastic roundtable discussion. We've got the Andy Hill joining us.
Nicest guy in personal finance.
At 100%. Yep. Love it when Andy joins the discussion.
Second nicest. Oh, thank you.
Doug, take it from here, man. What should we have learned on today's episode?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from Morgan Housel. Spending money this month? Mindfulness can change the trajectory of any person's financial outlook. Second, whenever someone retires, their workplace changes. Things will change for Berkshire Hathaway, but how? Only time will tell. But the big lesson? Don't share with OG facts about the Badlands. He'll counter your facts with his own about Wicked. Which is worse, being bad or being wicked? Wicked sucks. He's about to go into a fit of rage because I said Wicked sucks. Just let him go, Joe. Thanks to Morgan Housel for joining us today. You'll find his Art of Spending Money wherever books are sold. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2025, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Joe gets help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
Speaking of Wicked, I saw the first half of the movie and I thought it was really good. I thought it was fun. I thought that the music, the effects, the cast, everything was good. I don't think I need to see the second one.
You kind of know what happens.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I'm like, I don't think so.
Why take a 2-hour play and turn it into a 5-hour movie?
Second one?
Yeah, they stopped it. The first movie was like the first half.
Huh. I don't understand that creative decision. It just feels like a money grab.
You think?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Why would anybody do that?
But there are some money grabs out there that we have all been watching.
Yeah.
Because maybe they've done a good job. I've been watching Nobody Wants This season 2. As much tension and fun as season 1. Kristen Bell, Adrian Brody. Good series, 27 minutes at a time. If you like the first season, you're going to like the season 2. What are you guys watching?
Yeah, football is done for the kiddos. Softball's done for Caroline. It's quiet time. So now I get some TV time. Really excited about finishing 1923, the second season. I kind of like all that storyline. I think that's pretty cool. I actually never saw the end of season 5 of Yellowstone. So maybe I've seen enough clips to know what happens. So probably just kind of bang that out too. Landman season 2 is out on Paramount. So go get your subscription restarted. I think they're releasing those weekly, which kind of sucks too. So you might want to wait a few more weeks. And then I started this series and I'm not a huge thriller fan, but so far so good. This is a series on Netflix called The Last Frontier.
I need to know what happened up there.
We diverted and made an unscheduled pickup. They said he was high priority. He was hooded, restrained. They called him Havelock. It's like he knew.
He knew what?
All right, everyone, circle up. We have a down plane 2 miles south from here. It is used to move inmates around the country. 11 a capture, 18 still missing. This is going to be their one shot at freedom.
Mr. Remnick, Sidney Schofield, CIA. Havelock's out there executing a plan. Do whatever it takes to secure the perimeter.
Knock, knock. Schofield, this is Alaska. There is no perimeter.
Kind of an interesting start on this season. Basically, I don't know how many seasons there are going to be. It just says season 1 on Apple TV called The Last Frontier. Starts out there. It's a plane full of inmates, including one person who is bound and gagged and hooded and, whatever.
This is like present day.
Yeah. Yep. Plane crash happens. Obviously it's kind of suspicious. There's, inmates all over Fairbanks, Alaska now. There's one marshal in town who's, basically like not mailing it in, but he likes the quiet life, hasn't fired his service weapon in his whole life. He's just up there, finds out about this plane crash, goes to check it out, and it's just pure chaos. And then all of a sudden, now the CIA shows up and says, hey, by the way, one of those inmates you might have put on there without your permission. We're going to need him. And we kind of think he's in charge of this whole thing. We kind of think that he's the mastermind of this whole crash. So,
ringleader.
Yeah. And then all the stuff happens, right? Like wives are abducted, people are killed, just it's this whole thing. So I'm only 2 episodes in. My son likes this type of show. He really loved Dexter because of the thrillerness of it. And so I stopped watching it to kind of get him caught back up so I can watch it with him. Only 8 episodes, so we'll probably get through it before the holidays are over. But, pretty suspenseful, kind of fun. It says it's created by the same people as The Blacklist.
Yeah,
if
that works.
If you remember that show.
Just everything I heard in that trailer sound like something I'd like.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's definitely like I've only watched 2 episodes, but each ending scene was something of like cliffhanger where you're like, oh, what the heck?
I know. I got to turn on the next one right now.
It's like,
damn it.
That's the bad. I thought that was the bad guy. Why is she protecting him? Like, hold on. Oh, that's the bad guy. Like, wait, what? That's not the bad. Who's on the phone? Hello, Frank. Fade to black. And you're like, oh my God, the bad guy. He's on the phone. Cool start.
I do that every time. Yeah. Every time OG calls. Oh God, who's on the phone?
Who's on the phone?